We just talked about bile salt formation as one of the primary roles of taurine. We've got other roles as well. Calcium regulatory role. So taurine helps calcium and other electrolytes, not just calcium, and basically go in and out of cells. Because when you have too much calcium flooding into cells, you can get side effects, and those side effects can be linked to a number of health conditions. So calcium regulation plays a major role in cardiovascular health and the functionality of how your heart beats. This is why some people with taurine deficiency will actually develop congestive heart failure, CHF. As a matter of fact, in Japan, taurine is approved medically to treat congestive heart failure because it's so effective. So if you've been diagnosed with congestive heart failure, your doctor's got you on multiple diuretics, possibly blood pressure, other blood pressure medications, talk to them about taurine. Talk to them about the Japan research, and do your own pull up some stuff. You type this in, you may be able to pull up some good data for him to look at and maybe help take you in that direction. We also see, though, with this, calcium regulation plays a role in muscle function and development. So we'll see people with taurine deficiencies develop cramps in their muscles, just like you can develop cramping in your heart muscle. You can develop cramps in your skeletal muscles that can, over time, that can lead to dysregulation and lead to atrophy. This is especially true of muscles of slow twitch, muscle fibers that are responsible for posture. So taurine boosts muscle contractility and reduces fatigue, enhancing exercise performance. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the studies that show this as well. We know that taurine is an antioxidant. It neutralizes what are called ROS, that stands for reactive oxygen species, protecting cells from oxidative stress and reducing lipid peroxidation. So the breakdown, basically free radicals, if we want to simplify it, taurine neutralizes free radicals, helping keep your cell's integrity and preserve your cellular function. We know taurine plays a role in nerve function. It acts as a neuromodulator, supporting neurotransmitter release, and may have calming and anti-seizure effects. I'm going to draw something out for you. Let's move this out of the way. So if you ever took a biology class or physiology class in high school or even college, this is my horrible rendition of a nerve. So this is a nerve axon, and this is the bulb, or this what's called the synaptic bulb or cleft of the nerve. And so what happens is you get an electrical gradient comes down this nerve, and on the tip of your nerves you have calcium channels. You've ever heard that term, calcium channel blocker? This is a common medication that doctors use. But every nerve, at the tip of every nerve, and this bulb is what the end of nerves look like, has a calcium channel. And so what happens is when that nerve depolarizes, calcium floods into the nerve. And as that calcium floods into the nerve, stored in the end of the nerves, you have these little bubbles or vesicles that are full of chemicals, depending on the location of the nerve. But sometimes these chemicals are gamma aminobutyric acid. Sometimes they're acetylcholine. Sometimes it's dopamine and serotonin. So you probably recognize, if you don't recognize all of these names, you probably recognize several of them. So what I'm trying to get at here is taurine regulates calcium channel influx so that these nerve chemicals can exit. And so on the other side, this is called the cleft. So this is the space in between typically two nerves. So now imagine another nerve is here, and that nerve goes on down the line. And so you have little receptors on this side of that. So as these chemicals are released, all these little chemicals are released, they bind to that receptor, and then they depolarize the next nerve. And this is how nerves communicate. So this nerve communicates to this nerve through calcium flooding in, releasing these chemicals that then activate the next nerve in the chain. And so these are common chemicals that are in the ends of nerves. So if you've ever heard of GABA, GABA relaxes people. It's an inhibitory neurotransmitter. It allows for relaxation and calmness. Acetylcholine runs your parasympathetic nervous system. So what is the parasympathetic nervous system? It's the primary nervous system that regulates digestion and rest and sleep and healing and repair, calmness, if you will, just like GABA. And then we have dopamine, which regulates our reward centers, and serotonin, which regulates our mood and our happiness, among other things. And so we need taurine to regulate that calcium channel. So taurine plays a pretty pivotal role. Now, this same calcium channel, actually, if we were to erase this nerve, we could draw muscle fibers. And so this nerve can send those same chemicals out here, and those chemicals can activate muscle fibers. So that nerve communicating to the muscle, or that nerve communicating to another nerve, that's why you see a lot of these functions here are redundant, right? So muscle function, neurological function, cardiovascular function, they're all somewhat redundant functions based on taurine's ability to regulate calcium influx and efflux in cells. And we also have vision and retinal health. Remember I showed you concentrations of taurine in different tissues, and the retina was number one. So high retinal taurine levels indicate its importance in eye health, with deficiencies risking degeneration. Definitely in animal models, what we see are macular degeneration and retinopathy, especially when blood sugar is at play. Taurine has a protective effect against high blood sugar and diabetic retinopathies in animal studies. So very, very important in overall eye health. So moving on. So these are some of the, again, main functions of taurine. So let's talk then, based on those things, who's going to benefit? Well, we know that taurine supplementation can reduce weight, so people with obesity. We know that diabetics, taurine supplementation can reduce blood sugar, can reduce hemoglobin A1C. We know the elderly, especially the elderly with sarcopenia, meaning age-related muscle loss. And we know epileptics. As I just showed you, it's muscle effects and it's neurological effects. So these are just some of the groups of people who can benefit